I never thought I'd be here, standing at the starting line of the Boston Marathon, my heart pounding in my chest, not from fear or pain like it used to, but from pure, unbridled excitement. 5 years ago, doctors told me I'd never run again, that my lungs were permanently damaged, that I should adjust my expectations and learn to live with limitations. But what if our limitations are just illusions we've accepted as truth? My name is Michael Chun, and this is the story of how I rewired my brain, reprogrammed my body, and defied medical science by healing my pulmonary fibrosis through the power of focused intention, unwavering belief, and what some might call the law of attraction. "I'm sorry, Michael," Dr. Patterson said, his eyes dropping to my chart. "The biopsy results confirm what we suspected. You have idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis." The words hung in the air between us like a physical thing. What exactly does that mean? I asked, though deep down, I already knew. I'd been researching my symptoms for weeks. The persistent dry cough, the crushing fatigue, the feeling that I could never quite catch my breath. It means your lung tissue is becoming scarred and thick. It's progressive, irreversible, and it makes it increasingly difficult for oxygen to pass into your bloodstream. I sat there, numb, as he continued explaining treatment options, potential timelines, clinical trials. Words like palliative care and quality of life floated around me. All I could think about was the marathon training schedule pinned to my refrigerator at home. "What about running?" I interrupted him mid-sentence. He paused, giving me that mixture of pity and discomfort. "Michael, with your oxygen levels, I think it's time to find new hobbies." That night, I sat on my apartment balcony overlooking the Charles River. Below me, runners traced paths along the water like they did every evening, their breath forming small clouds in the cool spring air. I'd been one of them just weeks earlier. Now I sat with an oxygen concentrator humming beside me, struggling to breathe just sitting still. What hurt most wasn't the diagnosis itself, but the death of possibility. The death of future memories I'd planned to make. The mountain summits I'd never see. The finish lines I'd never cross. The next morning, I had a follow-up appointment with my pulmonologist. My lung function tests had declined again. Dr. Patterson was talking about increasing my oxygen support, possibly considering me for a transplant list down the road. "Is there anything else I can do?" I asked. "Anything at all? Diet, exercise, experimental treatments?" He sighed. "Michael, this condition isn't something you can overcome through willpower. The scarring in your lungs is physical, real. It's not going to be reversed by positive thinking." On the Uber ride home, I searched healing pulmonary fibrosis naturally and law of attraction healing stories. By the time I reached my apartment, I had fallen down a rabbit hole of testimonials, studies on the placebo effect, research on neuroplasticity, and quantum physics theories about consciousness affecting reality. That evening, I found myself sitting cross-legged on my living room floor, attempting to meditate for the first time in my life. I lasted maybe 3 minutes before the coughing started, before the anxiety of not being able to breathe properly overtook me. But something about those 3 minutes felt significant, like I had taken the first step on a new path. The next day, I went to a bookstore, my first outing that wasn't medical-related in weeks. I came home with a stack of books: Joe Dispenza's You Are the Placebo, Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life, Neville Goddard's The Power of Awareness. My sister Maya called in the middle of this self-directed crash course. "Michael, you're not skipping your medications, are you?" "No," I assured her. "Nothing like that. It's just supplemental." Maya was silent for a moment. Then, "You're reading that book I gave you, aren't you? The one about the law of attraction." "I know. I'm not replacing anything. I'm just adding to it. What's the harm in that?" After we hung up, her words stayed with me. "Don't get your hopes up too high. But that was exactly what these books were telling me to do. To elevate my expectations. To envision my desired outcome with absolute faith. That night, I wrote in a journal. What if the unlikeliest outcome became my reality? What if I became the medical miracle? The case study? The one who defied the prognosis? What if? And more importantly, why not me? I created a schedule for myself. 6 a.m. Gratitude journaling. 6:30 a.m. Visualization meditation. 7 a.m. Gentle yoga and breathing exercises. Throughout the day, affirmations and conscious thought correction. Before bed, another visualization session. The visualization part was what I struggled with most initially. I would sit there, eyes closed, trying to imagine myself running again, breathing easily, my lungs clear and healthy. But the mental image kept getting interrupted by the reality of my wheezing breath. I changed my approach. Instead of trying to visualize the end result, me running a marathon, I focused on recalling how it felt when I used to run. The rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement. The cooling sensation of air filling healthy lungs. The endorphin rush. The sense of freedom. I would immerse myself in these sensory memories until, for brief moments, my body forgot it was sick. In those moments, my breathing would actually ease slightly, as if my lungs were responding to the remembered state of health. I began collecting images too. Pictures of healthy lungs, photos of marathon finishers, images of lung tissue regenerating. I created a vision board and hung it where it was the first thing I saw each morning and the last thing at night. My affirmations evolved from generic statements like, "I am healthy," which my mind immediately rejected as untrue, to more process-oriented ones. My body knows how to heal itself. With each breath, my lungs are regenerating. I am activating my body's natural healing abilities. Every cell in my lungs is remembering its perfect, healthy state. Around this time, I made a decision that worried my family but felt right to me. I tapered off the prednisone gradually, under medical supervision. To Dr. Patterson's surprise, and mine, my lung function didn't immediately decline as expected. It remained stable. "It's probably just a plateau in the disease progression," he explained. "Don't read too much into it." But I did read into it. I saw it as the first sign that something was working. 3 months into my practice, I began noticing small changes. My oxygen saturation had stopped its steady decline. My resting heart rate began to normalize. The stairs to my second-floor apartment became manageable without stopping. Dr. Patterson noticed too during my monthly checkups. "Your condition appears to be stabilizing," he said, reviewing my test results. "That's unusual with IPF. Usually, we see a more consistent decline." 6 months in, I experienced the first major breakthrough. I woke one morning without the persistent dry cough that had become my constant companion. Around this time, my sister Maya told me about a clinical trial at Harvard Med, a new approach to pulmonary fibrosis using stem cell therapy. For a moment, I felt conflicted. Would pursuing this treatment mean I was giving up on healing myself through the power of my mind? Then a different perspective emerged. What if this wasn't separate from my manifestation practice? What if this opportunity was the universe responding to my intention? I attended the information session and was accepted into the trial 2 weeks later. 8 months into the trial, I developed a severe respiratory infection that landed me in the hospital. For the first time since beginning my practice, I felt real fear again as I struggled for each breath. In the hospital, I realized I had been practicing the law of attraction with an undercurrent of fear, visualizing health not just because I desired it, but because I was terrified of the alternative. In that hospital bed, I closed my eyes and did something I had never done before. I fully accepted my situation, without resistance. I acknowledged that I might not recover, that death was a possibility. And strangely, in that complete acceptance, the fear dissolved. What replaced it wasn't resignation, but a profound peace. From that paradoxical space of peaceful intention without attachment, I began to visualize healing in a new way. Not from desperation, but from love for my body. The next morning, my oxygen levels had improved enough to remove the mask. By afternoon, the fever broke. 2 days later, I was discharged. In the months that followed, my improvement accelerated. The combination of the clinical trial treatment and my evolved mental practice created what felt like a synergistic effect. My lung function improved beyond what the researchers had typically observed in other participants. 1 year after beginning the trial, I reached a milestone I had once thought impossible. I went for a run. Not a marathon, not even a mile, just a slow, careful jog around my block. I came home from that first short run and sobbed, deep, cleansing tears of gratitude and awe. 18 months after diagnosis, Dr. Patterson sat across from me, shaking his head in disbelief as he reviewed my latest test results. "Michael, your lung function is now within normal range for your age and height. Technically, you no longer meet the diagnostic criteria for idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. So I'm healed." I needed to hear him say it. In functional terms, yes. I would classify this as a remission, though that terminology isn't typically used for IPF because, frankly, remission isn't something we see with this condition. He leaned forward. "Michael, I have to ask, beyond the clinical trial, what else have you been doing? Because what we're seeing in you is beyond the curve. Way beyond." For the first time, I shared with him the full extent of my practice. I expected skepticism. Instead, he listened intently. The placebo effect itself demonstrates the power of belief on physical outcomes, he admitted. We know it exists, yet we tend to dismiss it rather than recognize it as a healing power in its own right. That evening, I registered for a 5K charity run benefiting pulmonary fibrosis research. It felt symbolic, returning to running while supporting others with the condition I had overcome. A month after the 5K, Dr. Rivera asked if I would be willing to be interviewed for a medical journal about my experience. What followed was a series of interviews, not just for medical journals, but eventually for mainstream media. The story of a man who had healed irreversible lung damage captured public imagination. I found myself speaking at wellness conferences, sharing my experience with support groups for chronic illness, even consulting with medical researchers interested in the intersection of consciousness and healing. For years after being told I would never run again, I stood at the starting line of the Boston Marathon. As I waited for the starting gun, I closed my eyes and took a moment to feel the fullness of the journey that had brought me here. I remembered the hospital room where I had struggled to breathe, the countless visualization sessions, the days of doubt, and the breakthrough moments of faith. When the race began, I settled into a sustainable pace. This wasn't about setting records. It was about completing what had once been impossible. Around mile 15, when many runners hit the wall, I experienced something unexpected. Rather than fatigue, I felt a surge of energy. In that moment, I recalled something Neville Goddard had written about living in the end: the complete emotional and mental embodiment of your desired reality. Running that marathon, I wasn't striving toward health anymore. I was living from health. I had become the vision I had once desperately clung to. Crossing that finish line wasn't just the completion of 26.2 miles. It was the culmination of a journey from death sentence to rebirth, from limitation to possibility, from fear to faith. 5 years have passed since my diagnosis. 5 years since I was told to adjust my expectations and accept a life of steadily declining health. Today, my lung function tests remain normal. Medical science would call it an anomaly, a case that defies explanation. What I've come to understand is that healing, true deep healing, is not just a physical process. It's a return to wholeness that encompasses body, mind, spirit, and the conscious awareness that unifies them. The law of attraction isn't magic. It isn't wishful thinking. It's a fundamental principle that governs how consciousness interfaces with physical reality. Our thoughts, especially those charged with genuine emotion, are not passive observations but active creative forces. Does this mean everyone with a serious condition can heal themselves through visualization and belief? I can't make that claim. Each person's journey is unique, influenced by countless factors. What I can say with absolute certainty is this: whatever challenge you're facing, whatever diagnosis you've been given, you have more power to influence your reality than you've been led to believe. The practice I followed can be distilled into a few essential principles. Clarity of vision. Define with precision the outcome you desire, not just in mental pictures, but in felt experience. Emotional alignment. Generate the feelings associated with already having what you desire. Unwavering belief. Cultivate faith not as blind hope, but as knowing confidence. Aligned action. Move in harmony with your vision, taking inspired steps. Surrender of attachment. Release the desperate need for specific outcomes. Grateful recognition. Acknowledge every sign of progress, every synchronicity. Community of support. Surround yourself with those who nurture your highest vision. Today, I run carrying the stories of countless others who have shared their healing journeys with me. I run to demonstrate possibility to those still confined by beliefs about what is and isn't possible with their health. I run because every step is a celebration of a body that knew how to heal when given the right support, both medical and metaphysical. Whatever challenge you're facing right now, remember this: your limitations are rarely as fixed as they appear. Your potential is rarely as limited as you've been told. You are, in essence, a creative force disguised as a human being. Your thoughts, charged with genuine emotion, are constantly molding your experience of reality. I imagined, I felt, and I was healed. You can too. Close your eyes and imagine, just for a moment, what healing would look like in your life. Not just physical healing, though that may be part of it, but complete wholeness in whatever area feels fragmented or limited right now. See it, feel it, breathe into it, as if it were already your reality. If you believe in the power of consciousness to shape reality, if you trust that the universe is always listening to the language of your thoughts and emotions, leave a comment below saying, "I am the creator of my experience." Remember, what you focus on expands. What you believe, you create. And what you can imagine, you can manifest. The miracle is not that I healed. The miracle is that we all have this same power within us, waiting to be recognized and unleashed. May this story have reminded you of who you truly are. If it did, give it a like and subscribe to keep walking this path of light with us.